Hi gang, welcome again to this week's Morning Coffee and a Thought, brought to you by Wings of Faith Ministries here in Sarnia, Ontario. Good to be with you. I've got my coffee here. I hope you have yours. This morning, I want to talk about water, something we deal with every day. Whether we drink it, bathe in it, swim in it, cook with it, clean with it, use it for the production of electricity, whether we make our living from water. It's something that's part of our everyday life. But our attitudes toward water were much different than the attitudes of the ancient world. And that's what we want to talk about today, is water and Christ, and how that will come together in our truth that I want to share with you today. We'll get back to our thought in just a moment. First of all, I want to remind you that Morning Coffee and a Thought can be seen every Friday at 1 p.m. on our YouTube channel and every Sunday morning on our Facebook page at 8 in the morning. Also, we want to remind you that Journey of Insight, a study that Al and I are doing, comes out every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. You can see that on our YouTube channel. Also, if you have a prayer request, if you want any information, or you want to make a donation to the ministry, you can do all of that at wingsoffaithministries.ca. All right, let's get back to our thought. So as I said, water is an everyday commodity we use for a variety of purposes. But in the ancient world, water, or should I specify bodies of water, were looked at much differently. When you look at ancient writings of the ancient world, including the Bible, you find that all societies believed that originally the planet was water. We see that in Genesis 1:1, where God speaks to a planet that was basically water or liquid. The idea behind it, and the Bible expresses it, as with other writings, ancient writings, that water represented chaos. That's what Genesis 1 tells us too. The earth was out form and void, it was dark. In other words, it was a planet of chaos. All ancient societies believed that. And other ancient societies also had a writing about the flood. Now, how large or how much of the planet that flood took up, we don't know. But we do know that ancient cultures associated the flood with chaos and destruction. When you went out on a body of water, you didn't have a lot of control. You were basically subjected to the forces of waves and wind. And so that represented chaos. Land, as a different example, represented order. And so in most cultures, land represented order, bodies of water represented chaos. Now, in the Bible, along with agreeing with the other ancient writings, we find, though, that in the Jewish writings, they give Yahweh the authority and sovereignty over water. In the whole creation story, land is formed by Yahweh, and he puts restrictions on where water can be. And so water is pushed back to form land and creative order. Now, throughout the scriptures in the Old Testament, we see instances where we see God's power over water. The parting of the Red Sea would be a perfect story biblical story of God's sovereignty over water. We see it again at the River Jordan, which was at flood stage when Joshua and the Jewish people arrived at the River Jordan. Yet Yahweh exerts his control over the river. We actually see it in the Old Testament, again with the prophet Elisha, where God actually uses the Jordan River to heal Naaman the general from Syria. So we see throughout the pages of the Old Testament God's sovereignty over bodies of water. That brings us to the New Testament. And in the New Testament we have a story which I want to talk about today, which again exemplifies what we're talking about. Jesus had just fed 5,000 people with loaves and fishes. After the miracle was completed, Jesus and his disciples part ways. He tells them to get in a boat, head over to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. Now, the Sea of Galilee was probably about 13 kilometers long and about maybe 10 kilometers wide. So not a big body of water, but a body of water in which weather can affect it. And so he goes up on a mountainside where he's going to spend the night praying while the disciples head to the other side to the town of Bethsaida. So a west wind comes up, and they are really struggling now to row to the other side. They're just not making any progress. They're probably 3 or 4 miles across, but not anywhere near their destination. It's now about the 4th watch of the night, sometime after 3 in the morning. And as Jesus looks out over the lake, he can see them struggling, trying to get across. And so the scriptures tell us in Matthew, Mark, and John that he went out walking on the water. Now I want you to think now of how the disciples viewed a body of water. Even though 4 of those disciples made a living out of the Sea of Galilee, they still had apprehensions about bodies of water and the lack of control you have over them. So here they are, facing a strong west wind and waves, and they're not getting anywhere. They're in the middle of chaos. And now they see Jesus walking on the water and heading towards their boat. Their initial reaction is fear, thinking he was a ghost. But they soon realize that it's Jesus. And he's walking to the boat, showing his authority, sovereignty, and power over a body of water. In other words, over what they would decipher as chaos, because that's the situation they were in. Christ gets into the boat, and it says immediately everything was calm. Chaos turned into calm. There's an important lesson here. Not that Jesus entered the boat and now there wasn't any wind, nor were there waves. No, the chaos ended. He walked on chaos. He had authority over it. He was walking on it. I want to bring this home to the time we're living in. We are living in a world of chaos. We are seeing the most instability in our world that we've probably seen in 60, 70 years. Everything is in upheaval and chaos. My point to you today, and the thought I want to bring to you, today is that Christ walks in the midst of chaos. He has authority over chaos. And whether that chaos is in the world, whether it's in your nation, whether it's in your workplace, whether it's in your family, wherever upheaval is, Christ has authority over that situation, whatever it is. We have to remember that no matter how chaotic the world is, Christ has authority over it. He has power over it. No matter what the chaos is going on in your workplace, your family, your nation, your city, wherever you find yourself, in whatever situation you find yourself in, no matter how chaotic it is, Christ can walk on that chaos. He has authority over it. And we have to remember that in times of chaos, be it local, be it worldwide, our faith is anchored in Jesus Christ. He's the one who walked on water. Yahweh is the one who parted the Red Sea and parted the Jordan River and healed Naaman the Syrian through the use of a river. God has authority over chaos. And Jesus Christ has proved no matter how chaotic the situation is, he can walk on it. Hebrews tells us we have an anchor for our souls in Jesus Christ. No matter what we face as human beings, no matter how chaotic the situation, Christ being our center will always get us through that chaos. It says immediately the boat got to the other side. There's always another side in chaos. What Christ wants is us to give him the glory and the credit as he puts us through that chaos and gets us to the other side. That's my thought this day. I hope you have a good week, and we'll see you again next week.